Just love that sound of Weekend Deal. Yes, Weekend Deal resuscitates from hibernation, and I welcome you to our studios. Yesterday, we started a conversation on politics, a job or call to service, and of course, we had different guests join us that yesterday to have a deep look at this, trending conversation, and one of them was actually Dele Momodu, one of the presidential aspirant of the People's Democratic Party. Today we know that Atiku Abubakar has picked up that ticket, and I know the focus will, turn to the APC to know who will emerge from their primaries here as well. And talking about the APC, today happens to be the 7th anniversary of that administration, and of course we remember the famous speech by the President Muhammadu Buhari when he said he belongs to no one and he belongs to everybody at the same time. Right now, let's take this background report. Of course, there's so much being said about delegates in Nigeria and how money has been, moving around, exchanging hand, and you wonder, if they don't have money, will they vote for you? Let's take this background report put together by Francis Ogbe.
As the 2023 presidential election draws near, a number of politicians have been jostling for the ticket of their parties. Also, the presidential hopefuls of the various parties have been visiting the state chapters of their parties to canvass for votes. Interestingly, delegates are the ultimate deciders.
When you are a delegate, that means you stand in, you have been asked, you are representing, you have been asked to stand in for somebody. So you cannot be expected to be more powerful than the person you are standing in for. So they have the statutory delegates and they have the elected delegates. Statutory delegates, they call them super delegates. They are mostly political appointees and political office holders. If delegates continue to see themselves as powerful to do what? To do deals, powerful to consider themselves, like, remember Governor El-Rufai recently when the former Minister for Transport visited him in Kaduna, he said that no delegate will make heaven. He made that comment. And then you also have Lamido, former Governor Lamido, saying that delegates is more like a human trade fair.
Since its introduction into the Nigerian political process, the delegate system has achieved mixed results. It has helped to simplify party processes, especially in terms of electing party officials and representatives at general elections. However, what are the criteria for the allocation of delegates to states?
It's based on the number of local governments you have. So that is why you have a situation, some states have more and others don't. There was a situation where people take delegates, they hide them. They put them in hotels, lock them up there, take their phones, hide them so that they will not have access to. Because if you give them opportunity, I know when somebody came from somebody that was not reckoned with in one of the governorship primaries that was done, I think 2003, somewhere in the southeast, nobody gave him a chance. The people were busy sharing 10,000, 15,000 to delegates. The man came and gave each delegate $200 each. And that turned the table. So he marched. So it's more like they want to make more money as much as they can. So that is different. And now you have a governor, bring them to government house. He's responsible for you are not part, you don't know anything, you don't know anybody. You had a rare chance of becoming a delegate. The governor invites you, I want you to go. He makes sure he gives you all that you need, pay your ways to Abuja, put you in a hotel. Then you have enough money, at least for that period. Then you go there to avoid you being tempted to listen to another person. He makes sure that you become a recluse. You are kept somewhere that's different until you come to that ground. So he will want to determine how you vote.
It is glaring from the high cost of nomination forms imposed by Nigerian political parties that the commercialization of politics is fast becoming an indelible feature of Nigeria's political culture.
It is very, very inappropriate to feast picking of forms for political parties at such outrageous amount. When you have somebody 100 million, many people in Nigeria working all through their lives, even if they retire at 70 years, never met and can never make 100 million. So how much is a president paid in a year? Calculate the salary of a sitting president throughout the 8 years. If he makes 8 years, he's not up to 100 million. So why are you paying 800? Why are you paying 100 million to buy a form? So I think the political parties derailed. When we monetize the system, we cannot expect a different. It becomes a transactional thing, a transactional process. It shouldn't be. It weakens our democracy.
The current funding model of political financing creates unfair competition and shrinks the political space to the detriment of competent leaders, youth, and women.
I don't believe that the anti-corruption agencies are doing what they're supposed to do. If they're doing what they would have seen it in the behavior of politicians. Because the process is so compromised, those anti-corruption agencies cannot be able. We have seen interferences here and there, and they condone all those things. We have seen how people get nominated and get membership of those bodies. So when you have political interference, nothing will happen. So for me, they can't do much.
This is an interesting political season for all and sundry. Therefore, weekending beams are set light on the delegate system in Nigeria.
Well, so much has been said about delegates, most especially as we experience the recent primaries across the states. We had cases whereby we understand that money exchange hands. Even yesterday, it was alleged that dollars were given to the delegates, and that's why the operatives of the EFCC had to storm the venue. But it's an ugly trend that we really need to curtail in this country moving forward. Now, sometimes the spread of delegates could actually be confusing, but this next report would actually guide us and also give us a graphical illustration of how delegates are chosen in from different political parties. So let's say this.
The recent weeks have witnessed quite a lot of activity as regarding the selection, election, and the special duties placed on the delegates who would elect the flag bearers of the various parties. A glaring observation, though, is the power held by the elected delegates and how the fate of aspirants seeking party tickets rests majorly in their hands. Many questions arise from this, mainly being, what is the yardstick for the distribution of these delegates?
When you're looking at the delegate system, you must understand one critical factor. Nigeria has about 8,126 wards, meaning that we have a little over, I think. And then then the ward is the smallest political unit. So dependent on what ward, in what state, and the amount of wards in a state, will there be delegates more in one state or another? We know the ward is the smallest political unit of structure, or smallest unit of a political structure. There are two key factors that come in picking out delegates. One, wards, with number of wards, people within that wards. The people within that wards, and with the new electoral law, you can't use statutory delegates, which means most will be ad hoc. So the APC and the PDP were having about 8,000 delegates before. I think it's going to cut down to about 2,000. And this is because statutory delegates, who are ex-ministers, ex-commissioners, elected whatever or appointed executive, now cannot participate in and senators too can participate in the convention. This changes the whole game a bit, reduces the number of delegates, though makes them more expensive to catch. Those are the determinants. So party and ward, and then elected position. But most of us focus on only delegates for presidential. There are delegates, of course, for State House of Assembly. There are delegates for House of Rep. There are delegates for Senate. There are delegates for gubernatorial, and there are delegates across all elections.
Theoretically, the delegate system of picking candidates is as democratic as it gets, since they, the delegates, by extension, represent the rest of the Nigerian citizens. But many beg to differ, as some have been accused of being unduly influenced, leading to unfavorable outcomes of the primary elections. So what then should be the best practice employed as far as the delegate system is concerned?
I think what would improve the system entirely will be clearly direct primaries. Every member should be allowed to have a say in who represents the party. Parties are hiding behind is expensive, is this, is that, but they get to do World Congress and etc. So it means that every member can participate in the primaries, and I believe that if every member participates in the primaries, some kind of people will not emerge from primaries. That's why there was so much action against the Electoral Act then when it was being amended, when National Assembly was thinking of just inserting only direct primaries as a means to, and a lot of people hid behind is expensive, which is not necessarily true. Delegates are far more expensive. So I think it's more of you won't be able to control the outcomes of the primaries, which is why most people use an indirect primaries. Niger is a lovely place. Our thirst for power has turned party politics into a buffet of corruption. So funny amounts being blown here, funny amounts being given to delegates. And this all occurs because a lot of us don't want to participate in parties. We rather wait for whoever emerges from the party, then we say we are following. The truth is, to have a functional democracy, more of us must be embedded in these parties to determine the quality of candidates that emerge. If not, we'll continue to have what I would rather call a selection, not an election, because the delegates make the choices.
With this in mind, and as the general public air out their opinions and grievances via all available physical and digital media outlets, these delegates should keep in mind that they represent every single Nigerian come the 2023 elections. Hence, are implored to see all evil, hear all evil, but resist all evil for a greater Nigeria.
The idea is to have that greater Nigeria, and I know somebody who is committed to achieving that. Is the convener of the Nigerian Agenda, also the former Commissioner for Information at the State, Alhaji Ahmadu Sajo. You're welcome to our studios.
Thank you very much.
Well, you've seen the reports and the whole conversation now. If hardly, have a public discussion somewhere around now without mention of delegates, given all that has been happening in this political primaries. And just quickly, what are your thoughts? What we're witnessing today? Are you concerned?
Yeah, I am. I have been a delegate 5 times, so I know exactly what the delegate system is all about. But you see, we are pretenders in this country. We pretend a lot. We want democracy without actually the ethos of democracy. We're looking at the delegate system as if it's something on its own. We're not looking at it within the context of the overall configuration of our representative democracy. If you want to ask me a question, and I will really wager on it, do elected representatives at all levels, National Assembly, Senate and House of Reps, State House of Assembly, councillors in the local government, do they represent their personal interests, or they represent the interests of tendencies, either their constituencies or the ideologies of their parties? Ask yourself that very, very simple question. At all levels, our representatives represent themselves. They hardly represent either the interests of their constituencies with no apologies. 90% of times, they talk about what interests them rather than what interests their constituencies. Do our political parties have ideologies beyond being special purpose vehicles for winning elections? Why do people just jump from one party to the other without any repercussion, without any feeling of remorse, without any feeling that they've lost any ideological basis upon which they were elected? It's because the representative democracy we are practicing in Nigeria is not representative of anybody. So when you elect me as a delegate to represent a particular local government or tendency, of course, naturally, I know that the template I have to work on is a template of representing myself. If we don't change the template itself, if we don't begin to have political parties that have ideologies, if we don't have representatives that can go back and be accountable to the people they represent, we will not get a delegate system that is any different. So it's just we're just doing democracy without being democratic, and it's not possible. So delegates see it as representing themselves. I saw yesterday something very funny. Somebody said if he knew, he would have studied delegate in the university. So it's something like that. Being a delegate is a gold mine.
But sir, look at it. When this before this electoral act, in fact, we have this electoral act now, 2022. It will by the National House of Assembly passed to the president for his signature. It was all to curtail some of these challenges.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. The whole essence, of the electoral act. The National Assembly was in a hurry to put together an electoral act that reduces the influence and powers of governors. And their focus was on governors. And then they now included a clause in that law that says a delegate is somebody who is elected specifically for the purpose of a congress or convention. Then all of a sudden, it occurred to everybody that party leaders are not elected for convention and congress. They are elected to run parties. Governors, presidents, and National Assembly and House of Assembly members were not elected for conventions and congress. They were elected for governance.
And that excluded themselves as well.
Of course, if the clause says only people who are elected, the greatest casualty of that is the PDP. The PDP in their constitution have one delegate for national per local government, 3 per local government for state. Now, in that configuration, they ended up with 774 delegates, out of which 767 were accredited. But what that robbed Nigeria of more was the fact that if you notice the convention of PDP very well yesterday, there were few women, very few women. It was a men's affair. But you see, in the APC is 3 national delegates, one of which must be a woman. So we are hoping that at the APC convention, at least, you would have a reasonable number of women. But
unfortunately, we don't have a female, strong female candidate.
Put that aside. Do you know why everybody is complaining now? This country is configured in such a way that when it is the turn of the poor man, quote and unquote, everybody will make a noise. Since I have known the delegate system, and like I told you, I have participated 5 times. Since I have known the delegate system, money has been exchanging hands. But because the statutory delegates are big people, they collect this money in huge quantum, put it in their pocket, nobody ever complained. This time around, they've been eliminated. Is ordinary Nigerians who succeed in becoming delegates from their local government and state that are coming to collect this money. You are sending EFCC and ICPC. When they collect the money,
they not doing their job?
When how many people have been collecting money at different levels? Have they ever stormed the National Assembly?
Well,
are they not collecting money? Why are we discriminating against ordinary Nigerians? Just because the system itself is what we configured. It's not a system. It's not a new system. It's a system we configured.
In essence, you are saying we need to reconfigure the system in order to get things right. Now, we'll talk further about money politics after we must have taken this report.
In recent years, Nigeria's democratic system has faced a grave threat from the monetization of the electoral process. The political class appears to hold the belief that votes are commodities that could be bought off from the electorates. Once paid for, the electorates are robbed of the power to demand accountability. The high cost of nomination forms for the various political posts has generated concern from the public. However, it's not a hidden fact that candidates have to pay huge sums of money to the delegates to stand any chance. The 2022 delegate primaries so far is a perfect example, as delegates rake in millions of naira from the aspirants who appeared in a hurry to outspend one another. Though in a dramatic turn of events, some aspirants have failed to secure the votes they paid for and are beginning to ask delegates for a refund. How did Nigeria get here?
Government before was funding political parties. They have stopped. And here we are complaining that we don't want money backs to hijack the process. Then you have the situation with the delegate system. The climbs where delegate system succeeds and are effective are climbs that the individual that you now want to give responsibility to, mostly they are not poor. They are not poverty-striking individuals like what you have in this country. So let's use that word. But that's the reality of the situation. So we created the situation that gives rise to this issue of money politics we're talking about. One, by the government that refuses to fund political parties. Number two, by the government again that created poverty situations that people are in.
The monetization of the electoral process has serious implications for the conduct of elections, both in terms of safety of electoral materials, personnel, and even voters, as this also has the potential to affect voter turnout and legitimacy of the results. Some analysts have concluded that Nigeria's brand of democracy has skewed completely from a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, to that of the rich, for the rich, and by the rich. Aspirants spend huge sums of money, with some politicians having to sell some valuable physical assets, borrow money from banks, or bend to the demands of some powerful godfathers to get elected into office. Their allegiance, when they eventually succeed, will be to their paymasters rather than to the electorate. The piper dictates the tune.
What do you find? Corruption. Unbridled corruption. Unbridled because people that would have hold power to account have been compromised from the beginning. The mindset has to change. We have to change and understand that we are not doing ourselves any favor at all if you collect money from somebody who wants to lead you. Because that person will, the moment he comes to the office, the very first thing he thinks about is how do I recover? How do I recoup what I've spent?
Make sure you do the right, because you are not doing it under duress. If it's to elect someone, you're electing him on a very confidential manner, but collecting the money should not influence your decision. So the result is coming not based on the highest bidder. The result is coming based on the competent leader. Then I'm sure people will desist from, engaging in this money politics. It's a very, very bad thing. That is why we end up electing leaders that are not competent.
What needs to happen to ensure the right candidates emerge not only at the party primaries, but at the general elections?
What we have to do is to enlighten the youth, especially, on the implication of this kind of practice. For the youth to differentiate from that money and their rights. Nobody have the capacity or have the money to buy your rights. No billions of dollars can buy your own rights.
The electorates, people who want to have something different for this country, something better for this country, must be able to think beyond the issue of money.
The gross lack of political finance regulations and any deterrence in general are major factors contributing to the rising cost of elections in Nigeria. Now is the time to de-emphasize money politics and push for clear-cut party manifestos that seek lasting solutions to the people's most pressing needs.
Well, from that report, we could tell that there's need to strengthen, certain institutions to check the excesses of, political environment in the country, because certainly you're not happy with almost everything that is going on at the moment. Now, one of the respondents, the chairman, IPAC chairman, YY Sani, he said that one of the key reasons why we keep having this ugly scenario of money politics in the country is the fact that the government has not been sponsoring political parties, and because of the poverty in the land, which he claims is created by the government as well. What are your thoughts?
One, government cannot fund beyond political parties beyond what is the provision in the law. And the law is very stringent about funding political parties, and funding of political parties is tied to their fortunes during election, which is quite a different thing. It's like the egg and the chicken. Should you fund me so that I go into an election so I can perform well, or you fund me after I've gone to the election and I've performed well or not performed well? So that creates some problems for the funding then. But in the case of the poverty, you cannot tell me that it's only the political class that are poor. Let's be honest. There's poverty all around the land. Something happened yesterday. We saw one of the contestants, who is a sitting governor, distributing money at the venue of the convention in huge quantum, while people who went to scramble for food in his own state were killing each other over, food. So that is just a summation of the situation we are in. We have an insensitive ruling elite that behaves as if all is well around their environment, and a poor, poverty-stricken, despondent general population that is aching a living with some difficulty. But that does not excuse what is happening within our polity. I think what is happening within our polity is actually, and to be very honest, is actually, a failure of our democratic system to entrench itself as a democracy. We are running our democratic system not as a democracy, but as a practice whereby, as a vocation, people go into it to make money, not to represent any interest in particular. And until we change our democracy to be a democracy rather than a vocation, we are in trouble. And that is what is happening to us now. We are running a democracy without democratic ideals. We are running political parties without ideologies, without even common stand, that this is what this party stands for. Nothing. Nobody implements any manifesto. You cannot go to two APC states and see the governors doing the same thing based on the manifesto of the APC. You cannot go to two PDP states and see the governors doing the same thing based on the manifesto of the PDP. It is the interest of the person in power that determines the programs of his government and hence that of the party. I think we are not ready for democracy. Then the money thing, people have lost hope, lost interest in what to expect from our political class. So whatever they get at the moment, quote and unquote, is their share. Any other thing you promise them later, he will not even remember. Some of our members of the National Assembly hardly go back home to visit their constituencies. And when they go, after collecting what is called constituency allowance, they go back and do some little token, real token. You collect money, real serious money for serious interventions, and then you go and distribute 5 sewing machines, 10 water pumps.
It's called empowerment.
And those things are not even monitored. They're not evaluated. There's no tracking. So you buy a kekena pep at maybe 50 or 60,000 naira. then you go and give it to somebody who will go and sell it 10, 15,000 naira.
Perhaps this is as a result of the weak institutions that we have in place to check some of these, abnormalities. But let's take this next report put together by Bayo Ogori, which takes a look at the role of anti-graft agencies in checking money politics in the country.
While money plays a vital role in every democratic process across the globe, the need to control and regulate the amount an individual or political party spends on the political process is very important to avoid monetization of the process and giving undue advantage to individuals with questionable wealth. This informed the cap placed on campaign financing in the 2022 Electoral Act passed by the National Assembly. The 2022 Electoral Act spending for a presidential candidate is placed at 5 billion naira, while governorship candidates can spend up to 1 billion naira. Senate and House of Representatives candidates can spend up to a maximum of 100 million naira. However, the ongoing primaries of the various political parties across the country shows humongous spending among aspirants.
There is no politicking or no political activity that can take place without the expenditure of monies. But the law presupposes that it must be lawful expenditure, which is maybe if you're a presidential candidate, I understand that there are X number of polling stations. Let's take it by example, 50,000 polling units around the country. That means your party must position 50,000 polling agents in at the very minimum, but in most cases you have 2 polling agents.
And right now is a season where you call it a political investment season, where you have the corrupt money bags, you have the godfathers who understands the system, who have hijacked the system and muzzled the system, and who have continued to suppress women, young people, and people with disability. And that's why when you look at the quality of candidates that are emerging, you will weep for your country.
Despite the passage of the law, politicians across party lines spend large sums on campaign financing, from wooing of delegates, buying of forms, campaign jingles, traveling across the length and breadth of the country to campaign among other sundry issues. One wonders why spend so much if the intent is all about service to the people.
So long as you take monies meant for governance to be your own profit, it is to the loss of the society. So the balance sheet to our own economic and social and political stability is that we are running at a loss.
In 2019, from my research, what I deduced was to become president, at least you must spend between 20 to 50 billion naira. To become governor, you must spend at least 5 to 15 billion. To become a senator, you must spend at least between 2 to 8 billion, and depend on the region you're from. To become a House of Rep member, you must spend between 100 to 150 million. To become a state assembly lawmaker, you must spend between 50 to 100 million. But in today's politics, to become the president, I don't have any data to back this, but you must spend at least 200 billion naira.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Offences Related Commission are vested with the authority to fight corruption in Nigeria. However, one wonders how have these agencies fared in sanitizing the electoral process? Are there penalties for those who run foul of the law?
I don't think it's really an issue for them. They should be more concerned about how the expenditure validates the legality of the election or the freeness and fairness and credibility of the election. But so long as money is not brought out openly on election day so as to taint the elections. And you can't really go into what happens in people's offices, people's houses, people's closets to determine whether they are overexpending monies. But however, the credibility of the election on election day is such that should not be tampered with or disturbed by the spending habits of some politicians.
Mr. A, who is running and who has probably spent 1 billion naira, gets into the National Assembly. The first thing he would want to do is, where can he pad the budget? And how can he get money under constituency projects? And that's why when you travel across Nigeria, they abandon projects.
Some analysts have cautioned that there is a need for anti-corruption agencies, INEC, and civil society organizations involved in electoral matters to show keen interest in the activities of political parties to track and ensure the prosecution of individuals and political parties who contravene the Electoral Act.
Well, they need to implement the laws we have and the land to, check some of this exercise is very important when we talk about moving and developing this nation, most especially our, political system in the country. Now, while the report was going on, my guests, kept making some side comments. So let's get you respond to some of this that you've taken from this report.
No, first and foremost, let us be very honest with ourselves. We are equating democracy with elections. And that's where we missed it all. So our democratic cycle, even within the context of discussions in the public, only props up when the cycle of election comes up. We've forgotten that there are many other strands to democratic practice. And we're forgetting that democracy itself has its own guardrails. Like you have a bridge, there are guardrails on this side so that you don't skid off the bridge. Democracy has its own guardrails. And one of the guardrails of democracy is a vibrant and democratic political party. Which political party do we have in Nigeria that is democratic? None. The leadership of the parties are imposed on the membership in most cases through methods that you can't understand.
Thank you very much, Alhaji Ahmad Sajo, for speaking to us this morning. Indeed, it has been quite enlightening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and God bless you.
Right now, we go on a break, and after that, we still have more for you on Weekend Deal. So please stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us. We still have a lot of messages coming in, but I will do my best to take some of them after we must have taken this next report put together by Oyinlola Alabi, and it focuses on some of the achievements of this administration, knowing fully that today is the 7th anniversary since they came to power.
Achievements of any kind, and indeed, especially for a nation, is worth celebrating. President Muhammadu Buhari was elected into power in 2015, and his administration has distinguished itself in various sectors of the economy. As we commemorate the 7th anniversary of President Buhari's administration, it is imperative to highlight some of the major achievements in selected sectors of the nation's economy. The administration has recorded giant strides in infrastructural developments, especially rails and roads, that are enough to make Nigerians proud. For rails, this government commenced and completed same standard gauge rails in different geopolitical zones of the country. For instance, the 327-kilometer Itakpe-Warri standard gauge rail completed and commissioned by this administration 33 years after the project commenced. The Abuja light rail completed in 2018. the groundbreaking lane construction of Kano Maradi standard gauge rail and revamp of Port Harcourt Maiduguri narrow gauge rail, amongst others. The Federal Ministry of Works and Housing under the administration has carried out commendable projects. Some of these are the Nnewi-Udunna Road, sections 1 and 2, 26.27 kilometer in Enugu and Ebonyi states. Kano Maiduguri Road, section 2, 100.08 kilometer, Shwari, Azare in Jigawa and Bauchi states. 106.34 kilometers in Bauchi and Yobe states. Vande Kia Obudu Cattle Ranch Road, phase 1 and 2, about 24 kilometers in Benue and Cross River states, and many more. More than 360 billion naira worth of sukuk bonds raised since 2017 for a number of road projects across the country. Second Niger Bridge. This is a striking achievement of President Buhari's administration. The Second Niger Bridge project is a key national infrastructure that has great socio-economic values for the neighboring states and the country at large. The bridge is 1.6 kilometers long and furnished with other ancillary infrastructure plus a 10.3 kilometer highway. Nigeria's economic development aspirations would have a huge boost come October when the Second Niger Bridge is commissioned. For aviation, the Ministry of Aviation under the Buhari-led administration has recorded fundamental achievements in almost all aspects of the sector. Some which are the completion of the new terminals for international airports in Lagos, Abuja, Kano, and Port Harcourt. Construction of a new runway for Abuja and Enugu international airports. The presidential approval for international airports as special economic zones. They are Lagos, Kano, Abuja, and Port Harcourt.
Some achievements of the present administration there put together by Oyinlola Alabi. Now, we have a guest who's just joined us in the studio, Engineer Garba Umar. He's an APC stakeholder. You are welcome to our studios. Now, let me refresh your mind back to the inaugural speech of the President Muhammadu Buhari, where he said his administration will focus on some key areas to include insecurity, the economy, and of course the fight against corruption. 7 years down the line, how well has he fared? And of course you're talking to us not because you are an APC member.
Thank you very much. And if you look at it, it is very conspicuous. The area of economy, the issue of economic meltdown, I think, is a global thing today. So it is, Nigeria is not an exception. But when we come to the issue of security, whenever we complain, we have to sit down and look at the security situation critically, compare the past and then the present. Definitely sure human beings, whenever there are one or two things, we are bound to complain. Definitely sure there is insecurity going on in the country. But before this time, if you can recall, even the Abuja itself wasn't safe. The way we are so freely in Abuja today, if you look at it, you can't compare it with the time when President Muhammadu Buhari took up the mantle of the leadership. I think there was even a time that for you to come into these premises of NTA being a staff, you have to be screened, thorough screening. You have to pass through some processes, our religious activities, were constrained, churches, mosques, when you go, you have to be screened and other things, all because of insecurity. At that time, when he took the mantle of the leadership of this country, if you look at it, the Boko Haram is almost everywhere in Nigeria. Nobody was safe. Everyone, in fact, we are all sleeping with one eye.
And somebody today will tell you that banditry is everywhere in Nigeria.
Yes, banditry is not everywhere in Nigeria. If you look at it, mostly the banditry is the highest area of the banditry is around the northwestern part of the country, if you look at it. But when I talk, the issue of Boko Haram is bigger than that of banditry. Boko Haram is something that, if you take an analysis and look at it, the lives it claimed within a shortest period of time, you can compare it to banditry. These are people that can come into market and plant explosive and put bombs to kill people. In fact, at times you can't even count the numbers. At a point in time, you can't move a kilometer without seeing a checkpoint. All our activities were restrained. At least, in fact, everything become almost standstill. So immediately he come in, the first thing I think he take up with is the issue of security. And thank God he has succeeded in bringing down Boko Haram by almost 80%. So when he came in, if you remember, there was this Fulani Herdsmen crisis in Benue, which is another crisis as well. And where is it today? I know he has managed to handle that very well. The issue of plateau crisis, it is managed to the barest, to the minimum level. Sorry, I can't say barest. So if you look at it, definitely sure we must to complain about what is happening in the northwest region, about the banditry or other part of the country where there is still the spread of banditry. Definitely sure we have to complain. We're human beings. But if we are to put on a scale and make a very good analysis and compare the past with the present, definitely sure we must to applaud the president. We must know that in the area of security, he has achieved a lot. So that is the area of security. And then if you look at the agricultural sector in Nigeria today, the rice, I think if you look at the rice pyramid, Nigeria happens to be one of the biggest producer of rice in Africa during the regime of President Muhammadu Buhari. So in his campaign promises and the speech during the inaugural activities, I'm sure he has delivered 100% to me.
Fight against corruption?
Yeah, fight against corruption. If you look at it, definitely sure in Nigeria today, there is nothing you will do. Whatever you do, people must complain about it. But in the area of fight against corruption, all I know is that the president is impartial. So that is the only thing a leader needs to do. You can't fight corruption when you are partial. So definitely sure he's impartial, and in the fight against corruption, I can tell you that this government had achieved a lot. So definitely sure he has not failed in that sector as well. So the fight against corruption is another milestone in the government as well.
Now, engineer, if you look at people who are coming out to vie, or rather to succeed the president from his own political party, if you listen to them, in their consultations, in their interaction with the prospective voters, they keep saying they want to fix Nigeria, they want to improve security, they want to do a whole lot of things. And you begin to wonder, are you not part of this administration? And is the administration not doing well enough that you are coming to?
You see, that is one point that the Nigerian people have to look at very well. You can't tell me you are part of a government, not just an ordinary member in the system. No, you're a member of the cabinet, or maybe higher than that, serving for 7 years with the president, given all the powers and the opportunities to contribute. And now you come out to tell us that you fix Nigeria, trying to indict the government, telling us that the government have failed. So the contributions you are hiding, or what you think you can give when voting into power, why are you keeping it? Is it a sabotage? Definitely it is a betrayal to the president. You can't tell me you are part of a system for 7 years, 7 good years. It is now that you are telling us if you are voted into power, you are coming to bring a new Nigeria, you are coming to install, to revamp our economy, to improve our security. Why are you keeping the technical know-how? What are you doing to the president? The president entrusted you and appointed you to work with him, to work for this country. Now you kept everything to yourself. Okay, supposing you keep it to yourself and Nigerians do not vote you into power. So if you die, you go with it. That means you are not supposed to be a leader. What you have is a selfish interest. You just want to be there. So that clarifies clearly that you are just lying. Nigerians should know that. Anybody that is in the cycle of this government, serving with this administration, or be part of this administration, and coming to tell the delegates or Nigerian populace that I am coming to set Nigeria, I am coming to give you an improved security, that person is just lying. They should forget about him. Anybody outside the government can come and tell us anything and we can listen. Maybe he has the input because he's not part of the government, so he cannot do anything. But these people we are talking in particular, they have given all the powers. They are part of the government, they are in the cabinet, they are decision makers in the government. So tell me, what are they telling us?
Well, if I get it right, are you saying that the, people who have bought the form presently are not competent?
Of course, anybody that is within the government and is coming out to say the same thing, that it will improve security, I will do it, just forget. He is not even incompetent. He is unqualified completely. Because, number one, he is a liar. Why? What are you telling us? When the president appointed you, or when you are nominated to be there, you promised Nigerians you are going to do better. So you have not done anything. And now you are telling us you have something you can contribute. But only when you are voted president. You are giving Nigerians condition on your own selfish interest. You are only serving this country when you are given the mantle of leadership. What you are giving now is not for you. So you are sabotaging the president or what? It's a threat. So you are a complete traitor. And that is complete sabotage. So I'm telling you, if these people are only talking about their own selfish interests, so they are not in any way supposed to be our leaders. We need people that are ready to work for this country. We need people that are ready to, in fact, do everything for this country. I want you to understand, it is very surprising to come from such angle. Okay, if anybody think he's deprived of any right from the president to perform, why can't he come out and say it? Which magic are you giving us after the 2023 election? There is nothing. You can't give us anything. So definitely sure this is a sabotage. Whether we like it or not, these people didn't mean well for this country. There are a lot of people in APC that pick form. There are a lot of them that are not in the government. So we can try them. But anybody that can shamelessly come out after being a part and parcel of this government in any capacity, and then to come out and tell us shamelessly that I'm going to improve security, revamp your economy, do this, do that, whom are you telling this to?
Well, you have made your point, engineer. Now, let me take this message. This one says, good morning, sir, distinguished speaker. Okay, I'm sure he was referring to Alhaji Sajo. That don't you think it's now necessary to discourage money bags politicians be set new system of getting themselves rich by making governance as business instead of, serving humanities. The administration should pay our lawmakers according to attendance, not close doors, and share the national cake. Many will be forced to face their business. Political leaders that have the interests of the masses always will be, favored, and that is what we want the electorate to always consider whenever you are exercising that right to vote. Now, money politics is almost everywhere now, and almost all the political parties are guilty of it. Now, engineer, what do we need to do differently in order to, escape this ugly, scenario?
We have to start from our conduct and characters. The number one problem with money politics, it keeps running the democracy hand in hand with a dictatorship, because it is more like imposition all the time. It always goes to the highest bidder. Whenever people think about politics, they always talk about youth and women to be co-opt into politics. There is no way you bring these youths into politics when there is money politics. If money politics is the driving force of our democracy, I think so many people will be disenfranchised. So we have to do from our conduct. When the president came out in 2015, he doesn't have money. Because of his integrity and track record, people do contribute from their own pocket to make sure he is voted into power. During the primaries, he couldn't even give money to delegates. But at the end, Nigerians believe he is the one that will take us to the promised land, and they voted him into power without money. So I think we need to emulate this something. We need to find a means and kill that issue of money politics. Otherwise, we can never have the leaders of our choice. We can always be influenced by that money. Our leaders need to come through a process that will start from the grassroots to bring somebody that is ready to serve. But once if there is money politics, it always goes to the highest bidder. So money politics is a disaster in the current democratic setting. And as you said, both parties are guilty of it. So there is no way we can eliminate money politics at once. It has to be a gradual process. 2023, we find a means to see how we can bring it down a little bit. Then 2027, as usual, as it is going, then if God have it, then we can eradicate money politics. But without free and fair democracy, there is no way we can have leaders that we need to serve this country right. Money politics always is like selling our right. When you sell your right and you don't have a voice.
Well, fairness, equity, and the need to educate the electorate is quite very important. Thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. And yes, we have been talking with Engineer Garba Umar, an APC stakeholder. We all know what we need to do as a nation to move forward, make deliberate efforts to ensure that we implement those policies, because we have wonderful policies in place, because we must certainly feel the impact of democracy in Nigeria. Right now, this is where we call it a day. See you next weekend. Bye for now.